Gibson came out with a new model, but forgot to tell us? Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. I never thought we would see a reissue of this model from the mid-60s, but yeah, sure enough, here it is. Non-reverse Firebird. Is that what makes it special? No, it's the 12-string version. Let's paint the story. When Gibson comes out with new stuff, it's usually on a Tuesday. So I was on Reverb and I happened to see one of these on my feed and I thought, oh, that's cool. A custom made to measure 12-string Firebird. But I click on the listing and it's like, no, that looks like stock photography. Is this a new model? So I go to Gibson's website, no new button there. But sure enough, if you do a Google search or dig deep enough, you can find it. It's a new model that they're offering. But for whatever reason, it's got zero marketing push. It's not on their social medias. Poor non-reverse Firebirds. They're like the least popular out of all the Gibson electric guitars. Not even its new model gets any love. But I'm super excited that they decided to bring these back. Because while a niche item, there are still people who play electric 12 strings, but their options are very slim. Pretty much the only one that gets any love in Gibson's history is the EDS 1275. It's a really cool double neck guitar. Usually one is a 12 string, the other is a 6 string. But this can be a little bit cumbersome to play all the time, so unless you want to chop one of these in half and have a terribly unbalanced instrument, here are some of the other options that you had as a Gibson player. In the 2010s, Gibson made some 12-string SGs. I have one of those here today. Now, there is a version that's not the neck-through body construction, but that's what makes this run so unique. It's basically a Firebird mixed with an SG. But another option would be the 12-string Gibson USA Les Paul Traditional. These things have gotten quite expensive in recent years because, A, they're just kind of freaky guitars. They've got the maple necks, got your Grover tuners, but they're a lot of fun. And Gibson has tons of 12-string acoustic models, but we're just focusing on the electric ones today. But you might seek out one of the odd mod collection releases that they occasionally do some conversion jobs to. Could you made-to-measure custom order one of these? Maybe if you're Warren Haynes. I suppose you could try, but then your other options were vintage, outside of going to other brands. So, in the 60s, you can find the non-reverse Firebirds in a 12-string format, as well as an ES335, believe it or not. Some people will buy those and then just string them up as a 6 and have an overly long, goofy headstock. But generally speaking, other brands like Rickenbacker have always ruled the electric 12-string lineup, so Gibson has never really focused on these guys, but they do exist. But that's why it's so special that they actually are trying this with a new model. Especially because it's a custom shop. So maybe if these sell well, we'll see other ones in the future. Because while not traditional, I think they could sell at least a limited run of 200 custom shop 12 strings in the Les Paul format. But now knowing that, they also have to compete against the vintage originals on the market because these are rather pricey. $5,999. Again, super niche item on Gibson's least popular body shape. They're really swinging out in left field, I think, but again, I'm happy it exists. But you know what? In many ways, modifying this body shape is better because guys aren't so dyed in the wool. They have to have it a certain way. So they're more open to having the, Les Paul style headstock just elongated on one of these things. But yeah, this is the perfect one to test the markets with because it's still based in history. If these sell well, I bet you'll eventually see that 335 also get reissued. But they made two major changes here. First off, versus the vintage originals, they decided to make it a wider nut width. But another change is the color. They're calling this Aqua Mist VOS, and at first I was kind of saddened by that, because it's like, oh no, it's not actually Pelham Blue. I didn't know if it would have like this slight sparkly sheen to it. I'm actually really digging this color. It's a little bit darker than Pelham Blue, but basically what they did is they went back to the Oldsmobile custom color charts, as many custom color guitars were actually based on automotive paint designs. A great way to appreciate the color is actually on the back of the neck. It's very nice. I'm not sure if that's coming through in the camera or not. But I love the fact this is not aged. Nothing against Murphy Labs and all that, but you don't necessarily want to pay that premium on every guitar. And usually when they come out with a new limited edition, whatnot or whatever, there's some sort of aging on it. But it's also important to note, this is not limited edition. This is standard production. They're going to keep making them until people stop buying them. At least that's the way the listing looks today. But first impressions, it actually has a really big, chunky baseball bat neck on it. I was not necessarily expecting that, but it seems to be a good weight. But besides just our guitar, what kind of case candy do we get? Looks like our usual custom shop COA, a pre-packed checklist, and a case key and hang tag. And for historical preservation, here's one of the box tags. And the case style is quite nice as well. Reminds me of the old 2018-ish era ones. It's just got that nice crushed velvet burgundy interior. Then outside here just says Gibson Custom. It's not as big as I thought it was going to be. I think it's just about a regular size case. But hey, from this angle, I can see all the other VOS treatment to it. So let's go ahead and throw this one on the workbench to take an individual look at its parts and specs. Inside our 12-string friend, let's learn its secrets. So as far as how it's routed underneath our pickguard, it's literally just for those two pickups. You're going to have a hard time fitting anything else in there. I mean, maybe P90s, but you'd have to drill the body for 2 securing locations. But if you wanted to make it like a 3 pickup version, no, you'd have to do some additional routes. But as far as the quality of the routes, it actually looks pretty clean. But here we can see our neck tendon joining onto the body. You can also see the maple block that caps off our truss rod. As far as the pickups themselves, we've got the Rhythm Reissue Firebird. Then in the bridge position, the lead of the same. But wow, they were just making those things. I actually found it interesting. You can find a lot of 2023 serial number ones of these right now, even though it's kind of a mid-2024 model. I'm wondering if they were waiting on these pickups. But here's a look at our channel route for all that other good stuff. But this model does not use a 3-way toggle switch. It actually has a more Fender-in style slider switch. Personally, I'm not a big fan of it because as you cycle through, there's kind of like a scratchy dead spot. I mean, they did this for historical accuracy, but personally, I think I just would have preferred a switch. They do have some cool aging to the top side of the pickups. It's nothing too crazy, but you've got like some color changing, shifting going on. As far as our bridge and tailpiece, we've got an ABR1 mounted historically with the post and the body, no bushings, and it is a non-wire ABR1. And then just like what you find on EDS 1275, you get this whole clawed style tailpiece that secures using these 3 screws. Now the knobs here are conveniently labeled. So it's neck volume, neck tone, bridge volume, bridge tone. Why they're in a weird backwards 7 configuration, I don't know. It's kind of confusing. Just know your volumes line up, your tones line up, and you got your output jack on the front. But now let's grab our readings. So the all the way over position is your neck. So 7.14. All the way down is your bridge position, 7.06. And the middle, just for fun, 3.55. The pickguard itself, we've got the cool Firebird dude, and it is indeed 3-ply, but it's a rather flimsy feeling pickguard. But I am really digging this new color that they have on here. It's very rich. It reminds me of Pelham Blue after its age just a little bit. It's not really super sparkly and in your face, but it does have a very light metallic sheen. And now that our pickguard's off, you can kind of see some more of that VOS treatment. But this is billed as a solid mahogany body. I can't see it exposed anywhere. But then we've got a mahogany neck with our rosewood fretboard. Now we don't have any fancy ornamentation here. It's just small acrylic dot inlays, no binding or anything like that. It's just bare bones rocker in that aspect. I measure nearly a 1.72 inch nut width with 2.08 by the 12th, 0.89 first fret neck depth, and by the 12th, 1.02. I was fully expecting those measurements to seem a lot bigger. I mean, this is a giant neck, very similar to R8 baseball bat territory. You may or may not like that. Maybe try one at a store if you're unsure. And if they don't have this exact model, just ask them for a 1957 reissue Les Paul Standard. 1958 would also do, or one of those 58 335s, or like one of the Carina Explorers. Very similar neck profiles. Here's a look at that neck profile. 1st fret and 12th fret. It's just a big C-shaped neck. That's still a 24 3/4 inch scale length with 12-inch fretboard radius. One of my favorite things about the 60 styles 12 strings is this unique inlay pattern. It's kind of like a Les Paul Customs headstock, just slightly modified. I guess Neil Sean had something very similar on his signature guitar. But for some reason, I always thought that was mother of pearl, but I've never actually seen one in person. These are pearloid. At least it has a lot of figuring to it. But then your Gibson logo is true pearl. And here's where our truss rod looks like on this one. Plenty of life left. But the cover itself is actually really thin, single ply. Just kind of blends in on the face of the headstock when you have it installed. Moving on to the back side of the guitar. Surprise! Looks like they taped off the holes when they sprayed it, so we can actually see through to the bare mahogany. That's some nice quality stuff. You got some great wood grain and color. It's a shame we had to cover over all of them. But it looks like we're rocking Gibson branded pots. We've got our Bumblebee capacitors. Pretty standard stuff in here, but always fun to see. Got a regular strap button down here, and the other one problematically on the top horn. They do have a comfort cut right here, quite a large extended one. And just for fun, the body's about 1.38 inches thick. And speaking of thickness, what's kind of cool is having the bare mahogany with just like some sort of a clear coat over it. You can tell how thick the finish is. I don't think I'd be able to show you that, but it's about the thickness of a piece of tape, like blue painter's tape. Huh, that's interesting. I wonder why that didn't get finished right there. Might have had like a wood chip sitting over top of it or something. The mahogany looks a lot darker in that area. But we can gloss over the back. Nothing too crazy to talk about. Got the back side of our neck right here, till we eventually get to our Gibson custom decal. And these are our vintage style tuners. You got 6 in line for both sides. They're vintage inspired. I don't expect much out of them. Here's our serial number. Custom shop 401403, making it a 2024 model, the 1403rd custom shop guitar produced that year. But all said and done, this bird weighs 7 pounds, 12.6 ounces. So let's go ahead and plug this one in and hear how it sounds. I wasn't expecting it to sound like a Rickenbacker. This is very bright sounding, and that's usually what 12 strings are known for. I personally really like that middle position. It's a bit thicker. That's fun and different. However, usually I like big necks, but when it's on a 12 string, it's a little bit more uncomfortable in my opinion. And this strap button location, maybe it's vintage correct, but my strap keeps falling off. I've caught this thing like 4 or 5 times. Back of the heel, I can already tell it would be perfectly balanced at that point, and it would be very comfortable. Currently, I don't want to say it's like super neck divey, it just wants to sit like this. So for modifying the nut, I would love to see them modify our strap button location too. And if all that sounds too chimey to you, remember, you do have your tone controls. me know all about Gibson's new Firebird 12. What are my final thoughts? I like that they modernized the whole nut width, but I think we need a few more modernized feature, like better tuners. These ones just, I don't know, sometimes you're just turning it forever and the pitch isn't actually changing. And changing that strap button location would have been a miracle. This is not so good as of right now. I mean, another way to get around that is just put a strap lock on. It's not that big of a deal, but I just feel the whole guitar would balance better with it right here. But as far as the tones, I was actually surprised. I was expecting something a little bit more traditional, but I realized how silly that sounds. I mean, these are real Firebird pickups. But I wasn't expecting it to sound so close to a Rickenbacker. So I guess now you've got another choice if you are a Gibson diehard fan and you don't want a different brand in your collection, or you don't like how Rickenbacker does their headstocks and you prefer the big, long, freaky thing. But my ultimate recommendation is, it's just kind of a cool blast from the past. If you want a slightly modernized take, it might be fun, but this is certainly not for everyone. But I did have a lot of fun playing this, especially trying it just 6 strings. But if you're interested in being the next owner of my demo unit, you can find it for sale on my website, troglysguitarshow.com. Alright, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you tomorrow on the next one. Take care. Hey, I saw you eyeing that neck through SG. You want to check out the video? Just click it right here, and everything will be good.